Welcome to the Windows Computer and Technology channel, and we're going to answer some of the questions that I've been asked through Wi-Fi. Of course, talking about the new Wi-Fi 7 certification made a lot of people ask me about their own Wi-Fi, and also some interesting questions because, wireless technology is a little mysterious for a lot of people, and sometimes the range isn't there. Sometimes you might say, well, I got this Wi-Fi, but it barely goes into the other room. What can I do? And we're going to try to help you kind of understand a little more about all of this. The first question that I got was about an internet service provider that actually is behind the technology you use. So a lot of you have what we call hybrid modem routers. So they actually do the modem part, which means they receive the internet from the internet service provider, but also have the Wi-Fi part, which often has, ports and all of that. So it is a router also at the same time. So the question was, how often do ISPs have to change this? And that is the big question and the problem with some technologies that you actually have offered through your own provider. Most of the time, they don't want to change it as long as it works, which means a lot of people that have their modems and routers from the internet service provider have very old technologies still working around, which means older technologies, older protocols, possible security risks. And this is something that has been always the problem. ISPs don't want to change it because it costs them money. So if it's something that you don't pay for, if it's either offered with this system, with the internet service that you have for free, well, they don't want to change that because they're going to have to pay for more. If you paid for it, then you can actually call the ISP and say, well, what newer technology you have, and they will actually tell you what's there, but you'll have to pay to change it, to buy the new modem or new. It all depends on how your ISP works. In terms of internet Wi-Fi, distance and so on, and the different Wi-Fi protocols. Remember that the older the technology you have, somebody was asking, he's got a router that is a G router. G routers are Wi-Fi 3. They're very old technology that is more than 20 years old. And so usually when you have that, you better change it to something more recent for several reasons. There's often better interconnectivity with the newer protocols. There's also security in mind because old routers probably have security flaws. And so having something, new is not a bad idea when you've had your router for many years. About distance, this is where it gets tricky because a Wi-Fi signal, depending on the frequency that you are on, doesn't behave the same way. And add to that the structure, what type of material the building you're in is actually made of. And this will get very tricky very fast. And that's why today there's things called mesh network. The reason for mesh network is to make sure that the coverage is good everywhere. So if you have only one modem router or just a router, and you're wondering why you can't get much distance, first of all, it goes with frequencies. Within those devices, you've got 2.4 gigahertz. And a lot of the newer have 5 gigahertz. And now the new Wi-Fi 7 has 6 gigahertz. Remember one rule. The higher the frequency they're offering you, the less it's capable of penetrating and going through walls, which means a 6 gigahertz frequency will usually travel less distance if there's a lot of obstacles between your computer or device and the router than a 2.4, which will usually go further away because it has better capabilities of going through walls. But the problem is 2.4 gigahertz signals are usually slower than 5 gigahertz that have bigger bandwidth. So you're stuck with, do I want distance or do I want speed? And that is where you have to make choices if you only have one device. And like I said, to fix that, we have what's called mesh networks. A mesh network is a series of devices that relays all of that. So your initial router will be basically boosted by all of the other devices that are plugged in through different rooms. In places where it's very difficult to get good Wi-Fi at a certain distance, the best bet is a mesh network. Buy something that's already, there's Wi-Fi extenders and all of that out there. Usually Wi-Fi extenders are problematic because they're difficult sometimes to match or work well with, say, the router you have. Many internet service providers also do not want extensions. They want you to pay for more devices. So a mesh network, what it does is that it's all the same, model. So they talk to each other easily, and that will extend most of the time the signal properly to a big home, for example. If you have, you live in a big home, you got several levels to give Wi-Fi. And remember that the worst thing, and I've seen that so many times, people find that the routers are ugly and stuff like that, and they put that in the basement. Well, that's the worst place to put a Wi-Fi router because the basement is not ideal. The higher it is, the better, but usually the central point is where you want it. So in a 3-story building, putting it on the second floor, not on the first, not on the third, but on the second floor is good. In terms of being in the middle of a room also, not at the end of the house at one point, it's also a good thing. Whatever you do, be careful in your choices and what you want to do with your Wi-Fi, but definitely it's a tricky thing. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching.